Hi, this is Pastor Brian. Thank you for joining me as we read through the book of Ecclesiastes together. Today is chapter 3. I will be reading from the Common English Bible, and this chapter is probably the most famous out of all of the chapters of Ecclesiastes, thanks to the band The Byrds from the 60s as they sang the song Turn, Turn, Turn. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There's a season for everything, and a time for every matter under the heavens, a time for giving birth and a time for dying, a time for planting and a time for uprooting what is planted, a time for killing and a time for healing, a time for tearing down and a time for building up, a time for crying and a time for laughing, a time for mourning and a time for dancing, a time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones, a time for embracing and a time for avoiding embraces, a time for searching and a time for losing, a time for keeping and a time for throwing away, a time for tearing and a time for repairing, a time for keeping silent and a time for speaking, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for war and a time for peace. What do workers gain from all their hard work? I have observed the task that God has given human beings. God has made everything fitting in its time, but has also placed eternity in their hearts, without enabling them to discover what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there's nothing better for them but to enjoy themselves and do what's good while they live. Moreover, this is the gift of God, that all people should eat, drink, and enjoy the results of their hard work. I know that whatever God does will last forever. It's impossible to add to it or take away from it. God has done this so that people are reverent before Him. Whatever happens has already happened, and whatever will happen has already happened before, and God looks after what is driven away. I saw something else under the sun. In the place of justice, there was wickedness, and in the place of what was right, there was wickedness again. I thought to myself, God will judge both righteous and wicked people because there's a time for every matter and every deed. I also thought, where human beings are concerned, God tests them to show them that they are but animals, because human beings and animals share the same fate. One dies just like the other. Both have the same life breath. Humans are no better off than animals because everything is pointless. All go to the same place. All are from dust. All return to dust. Who knows if a human being's life breath rises upward while an animal's life breath descends into the earth? So I perceived that there was nothing better for human beings but to enjoy what they do, because that's what they're allotted in life. Who really is able to see what will happen in the future? So what stuck out to you today? What was most interesting for you? I have to tell you, as I was reading this, I couldn't help but notice in verse 5, the second half, where it says there's a time for embracing and a time to avoid embracing. And what we are going through right now in quarantine with the COVID-19 pandemic is exactly that. A time that we are asked to avoid from embracing, and that just really hit me hard today. So what else stuck out to you? What did you notice in the text? Things like we are dust and that we will return to dust, that reminder from Genesis, that reminder from Ash Wednesday that we celebrate each year at the beginning of Lent, as we kind of live right now in an extended Lent? Has that taken on new meaning for you this year? Think about these, the other things that you heard or read in the text and that popped out to you. Write them down, share them with a friend or myself. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to reading with you a chapter from Ecclesiastes each day. Take care, stay safe, and God bless.